Welcome members to Scroll Society, a members-only club for those who are chronically online. Oh, this week, so much has happened. I feel like the first couple of weeks of Jan, it's like a little bit slow. Everyone's getting into it. And then suddenly, bam, the news is newsing. You know, the timeline is timelining. It's just like there's so much happening. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is something a little bit regional. For those listeners who are unaware, I'm based in the UAE. I'm based in Dubai. And we have had Coldplay week, okay? This week in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE, Coldplay had 4 sold out shows. And I just want to say something. I want to say something because a couple of months ago, I waited in line to try to get tickets to Coldplay. And when I tell you how upset and pissed off I am that the tickets got sold out because half of the people who were waiting in line were ticket scalpers in the US, I am livid. I can't explain to you how pissed off I am because like why are these ticket scalpers, like I understand it's a hustle and I understand it's a business, but like why are you taking away the opportunity from us so that you can then sell the same ticket for double the price? Like you're not going to go see a Coldplay. You're making a profit off of people who are already going to pay an arm and a leg for the ticket. So I got really, really pissed. And I made a video about it a couple of months ago and it went viral. And then I got a lot of comments ever since then of people in the US who are like, I'm unable to make it to the Coldplay ticket. I'm selling my Coldplay ticket. I'm like, Tiffany, you're unable to make it because you're somewhere in Arizona. You never had the intention to come to Abu Dhabi to watch Coldplay. You're doing this for the side hustle. You're doing this for the business. And I realized this in the months leading up to the Coldplay concert, that these people are doing this as a side hustle. And when I call them out, when I do other videos saying like, you know, what you're doing is not right, they're like, how else are you expected for people to make it in this economy? I don't know. Talk to your government. Literally speaking, like, there is so much wrong happening in the United States. You guys are attacking me for their malpractices and for their unethical business. Like, I know it's a side hustle, but it's unethical. Okay? And I'm super pissed at Ticketmaster for not regulating this better. And the reason why I'm so pissed, I refuse to buy secondhand tickets because I do not want to give these people profit. I don't want them to make a dime off of my desperation. I would rather watch Coldplay from my laptop than give people my hard-earned money for double the price of the ticket that it was originally sold for. You know what I mean? Like, I refuse. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, I had a few of my followers message me saying, actually, it's not 100% full. Like the concert venue, I think was supposed to host 50,000 people, wasn't full. Like it wasn't at full capacity. Maybe it was at 90% or 95, but there was still a 5% that wasn't there. 5% that could have been actual people who were willing to see Coldplay. But they didn't, because all of these people in the US who wanted to make a side hustle because their economy is to shit because of their own government. I'm sorry, I am salty, but it all goes back to the US government, okay? It's not my problem that they are not doing well. They need to follow up on that. Like, why are you mad at me for being mad at them? Let me be mad at them. What they're doing is unethical. So yeah, I got really pissed and I really hope that Ticketmaster and Abu Dhabi Tourism and all of them learn a lesson that like maybe we need to do ID verification. Maybe there needs to be a priority for people who have an Emirates ID, which I heard is what they do in Japan anyway. Apparently, this is a big problem in Japan. And what Japan does is they release the first wave of tickets to people who are residents and they have valid IDs. And then they do a second release for people who want to fly in. So people in the GCC, if you're pissed off at me for saying that we need IDs, this is how they do it in Japan. And it works. It works. So yeah, we had Coldplay week and everyone's still like high off of Coldplay. I'm not as salty because I've seen Coldplay twice. The first experience was amazing. The second experience, I wouldn't say it was the best because it happened in the expo. It was they came to visit Expo in 2022, I think. And it was in the Al Wasl Dome. So it wasn't the full capacity and they couldn't do the show that they usually do. You know what I mean? Like it was a different type of experience. I wouldn't say it was the worst experience. It was really nice, but it wasn't like the regular concert. So I've already ticked that bucket off my list. I just would have loved to see them here again. But, it kind of sucks for people who wanted to go see them for the first time and couldn't because of those nasty ticket scalpers. The second thing I wanted to talk about, which I think is arguably way more important, is the migration of the TikTok refugees onto Red Note. When I tell you this is probably my favorite moment in history, this is my favorite moment in history. I'm already picturing how they're going to make this into a movie. I'm already imagining all of the US representatives and their expressions waking up and reading the news. And for you, maybe if you haven't kept up with the news, you haven't seen it on your timeline, you know, and we've spoken about this in the last episode, about the impending looming TikTok ban. By the time this episode is released, there may or may not be TikTok in the US, okay? We are filming this. I say me. Me is the single team. I am the editor, the host, the director, all of these. I wear way too many hats. But anyways, today is Friday the 17th of January. By the time this episode comes out, it will be Monday the 19th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, no. Oh, it'll be Monday the 20th by the time this comes out. And apparently, TikTok is set to be banned the day after tomorrow, which is the 19th of Jan. Huh. Insane, crazy, deranged, WTF. And because TikTok is going to get banned, all of these TikTok users in the US, all 170 million people who are making a living or are just enjoying the community that is TikTok, have to find somewhere else to go. And people have the awareness now to realize and recognize, well, you know what? We don't want to go to Instagram and Meta because Mark Zuckerberg is one of the people who was lobbying all of the politicians to ban this app. So you know what? We're not going to go to your app because you're petty and we can be pettier. So there is a large amount of people who went ahead and downloaded Red Note, an app actually created by the CCP or approved by the CCP. Essentially an app that is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. It is called Red Note, or loosely translated to Red Note, but it actually is called the Little Red Book, as in the Little Red Book of Communism. Like, you cannot write this better. This is called divine comedy. This is the best moment in history, and you cannot make this shit up. And I am living for every single piece of pettiness out there. Every single day, I'm like, yes, this is how you protest. This is how you stick it to the government that has not respected you. I love this generation of Americans. Like, I love them because they have nothing to lose. And you know, the reason why they want to ban this app or ban TikTok is because the US government is saying, well, you know, this is a security threat. They're going to have access to all your data. And Americans are like, you know, you have access to all our data. You have access, you know, Mark Zuckerberg has sold our data to foreign governments and to many different people. You know, the NSA has spied on us ever since 9/11. You know, they have access to all our data. Yeah, that's why you have Snowden, who is like living in Russia somewhere because he's not allowed to come back to the US because of him whistleblowing, saying that, you know, the US is essentially spying on their people. So people are like, you know what? Everyone has access to my data. I want to give my data to China. You know, like, if you can sell my data, I will give it for free to China. And I'm just like, I love it. I love it. I am living for all of this pettiness. And the thing is, I went onto this app. I downloaded this app because it was the number one. Overnight, it became the number one most downloaded app on the App Store in the US. And I'm dying out of curiosity to see what it's like and what the experience is because, you know, I'm probably going to say goodbye to all of my favorite American creators that I've enjoyed consuming their content for the last couple of years on TikTok. So I'm like, you know what, let me download this app. And it is so cute. When I tell you, it's like a hybrid between Instagram and Pinterest, but you can also upload your videos and pictures and stuff like that. And the Chinese people are so cute. I already did a video about this, but like one of my first comments was Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. They're trying to say Salam alaikum. As an Arab, I am heartwarmed. I'm not going to do this because it's going to make me look old. The little cute little heart like this. I love it. I love you. It's so, so cute. The only thing is it's like a little hard to get around in terms of the user interface. I don't think it's as easy as TikTok or Instagram, but like it's easy to get around anyway, you know? And the people are so friendly. And apparently the Chinese have been so friendly to the Americans. They're starting to teach them Mandarin. Yes. Americans are learning Mandarin because the Chinese on Red Note are teaching them. And not only that, there's this lovely cultural exchange where Chinese kids are asking Americans to help them with their English homework. Diplomacy 2025, this is what diplomacy looks like in 2025. Don't give me ambassadors, don't give me diplomats and delegations. This is diplomacy in real time, The two different people from different cultures teaching each other language, like, so cute. So cute. But the second thing that's very interesting that is coming to light is that Americans are now realizing that people in China actually live better than people in America. And this realization is so funny because I already knew, or the rest of the world already knew, that the US is a third world country wearing a Gucci belt, right? Like, that's the joke everyone says and has been saying for years, because essentially America is not great, which is why Trump is saying, make America great again, because it's not great. It's been not great for such a long time. Even while he was there, it wasn't great. And it's really funny to see how Americans thought that they were like at the top of the top. They were the best. America is the best, the free world. Like, we're the top. We're the ones that you want all of our stuff. But then, if you leave the continent and, hop on a plane and fly to a different country, you realize that everyone else is living way better than you. So it's that culture shock of Americans who have never left the US, seeing how people in China have an amazing standard of living. That's, for them, is just like, what? And the funniest thing, I'll show you a few tweets that I've bookmarked that had me laughing out loud, laughing so hard. Americans finding out China is better than they imagined, and Chinese are finding out that America is worse than they imagined. I shouldn't be laughing, but this is so funny. So apparently someone on Red Note, someone from China, is asking Americans if it's true that minimum wage hasn't been increased in 16 years, or if it was just the Chinese government's propaganda against the US. And Americans are like, no, that's true. And another post said, someone from China asked me if we really had to pay for an ambulance in America, or if it was also their government's propaganda. And Americans are like, no, we also have to pay for an ambulance. And it's so funny because the shame that the Americans are getting right now, and realizing and recognizing that the reason that they want to ban TikTok, and the reason why there's such a divide between the US and China, or not just the US and China, like the US as a whole and the rest of the world, why they're just so separated, is because they don't want people to know that they are not providing their own people a good standard of living, if that makes sense. So there is a sense of control against the people of the US population, let's say, by the US government. They are shielding them from the rest of the world because they don't want them to know that the rest of the world has universal health care. Their kids don't have to wear bulletproof backpacks. It's safe, it's secure, and they have a good standard of living and stuff like that. And it's insane to see. And as someone who's not American, people just assume I'm American because I have an accent. This accent is the product of watching American mainstream media since birth, right? Like, I've been watching Disney since I was a kid. Like, this is why I have an accent. Get on with it. But I'm not American, okay? But it's just so funny as someone who's not American, seeing all of this and just be like, finally, Americans are being humbled. And maybe this will be a good changing point for the US citizens. And I only say this because I'm so sick and tired of the US government sending money to fund wars abroad. And, maybe finally they can take that money and reinvest it in their country and leave everyone the fuck alone. That's why I'm happy. That's why I want all this to happen, because the whole world been sick and tired of this shit. And we just leave everyone alone. Stop sending money. Stop trying to take over, bring democracy to everywhere, because clearly democracy is not working. It doesn't exist. And just leave everyone alone. Leave everyone alone. And I saw someone post in one of the comments, and I wish I screenshotted it, but I didn't. They said that they're putting so much time and effort into trying to ban an app like TikTok, but we have apps like OnlyFans and Pornhub that are still out there, and those applications are the ones that are exploiting people, exploiting women, exploiting sexuality, and exploiting children. And they haven't taken those types of apps down. And yet TikTok is the biggest threat to society at the moment. You know, like you have to really think about the priorities and think about why they want to ban certain apps and not others. I'm just putting it out there. Let's just put our thinking caps on, because if you start to ask why, then you're going to start digging, and then you're going to realize that it's not for the benefit of the people, it's for the benefit of the pockets. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, I joined Red Note, so you can follow me. I'm still the same at Khalijet on Red Note, your favorite Kuwaiti housewife in Dubai. I'm going to be posting the same content that you see on all platforms, but I want to explore the world of China. Like, I have always wanted to go to China. I've always wanted to go to Guangzhou, because deep down, I want to be a businesswoman, and I feel like I want to go to the factories and be inspired by a product and bring it back. So I'm manifesting this year, inshallah this year, I hope. I'm manifesting that I can go to China and go to Guangzhou and like have a tour of all of the factories. That's like literally my dream. I know it sounds like such a weird thing, but like I'm in my like girl boss era, okay? Like I have my girl boss hat on. I want to be a businesswoman. I'm going to put this out there because I want to manifest it. I just don't know what I want to do. And you know, sometimes when you travel or when you go and you see certain products and you see how they're made, or, you know, they have access to all of like the newest things anyway. And when I say newest things, I mean just like newest products that are in demand or have been set to order. And so I just want to go to those places, like, you know, the manufacturers' malls, or like, you know, these expos that they have where like they showcase the latest products. I want to be inspired to start a business, and I want to go to China so that I can maybe source a few products. So yeah, like if anybody from the Chinese government is watching, if my Chinese spy is watching me from Red Note, I would like to go to Guangzhou, please. And thank you. With that being said, let's move on to our second story, or third story of the day. I wanted to talk about free press. Like, I know I talk a lot about the US, but I think that like the world consumes the US media the most. But I wanted to say that it is very interesting that right now the Biden administration is saying goodbye. Everyone is kind of like, it's kind of like in school where they say bye to your friends. Like you graduate and you're like, bye, I'll see you, good luck, blah, blah, blah. And so every person from the Biden administration is saying their goodbyes and doing their speeches, whatever. You had Kamala Harris signing the, I guess they have a drawer for the VPs, like not a drawer, but like they have a desk that every VP uses, like it doesn't change. And then there's a drawer inside of that where like at the end of their term, the vice presidents sign. Didn't know this actually happened. This is the first time I ever see it. But like, you know, everyone's saying their goodbyes. What I find really, really interesting is Secretary Anthony Blinken. He's the foreign secretary, and he's been the one who has been the who's been the biggest advocate of the genocide in Gaza at the moment, right? Like in the past year and a half, he has been the one who has really pushed for kind of facilitating this genocide and defending this genocide and whatnot. And in his final speech, someone from the press, a journalist called Sam Husseini, tried to call him out on it, saying, you know, like, you have been the biggest advocate for a genocide. He was very calm in the way that he was trying to question Anthony Blinken. And they had 7 police officers escort him out of the room.
2 or 3 people. You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I am asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking questions. Saying that Israel's doing genocide and extermination, and you're telling me to respect the process. Criminal, why aren't you in The Hague?
As someone, again, who is not from the United States, but has grown up seeing the fact that the United States prides itself on freedom, free speech, and free press, seeing this level of control, punishment, and censorship is insane. This is the type of control, censorship, and punishment that you see in countries like China and Russia, or how it's been portrayed by the United States in their media, you know, when they criticize other countries for being so closed, but they're doing the same thing. You know, it's like I said this in the last episode, it's the pot calling the kettle black. You can't say that someone else is doing something bad when you're doing the same thing. Both of you are bad. Both of you are the villains. I don't see anything wrong with censorship or control of the press if you admit it. Like countries like Russia and China, if they admit it, fine. You do what you want. It's your country, right? You know, you have your own issues to deal with. You have your own priorities, whatever it is. You know, every country has some level of censorship to it. What pisses me off, what I find hypocritical, is when countries like the United States boast about the fact that they are the land of the free. We've got free speech. We've got all of this. And then they come around and they do the worst. They will do the censorship. They will ban the app, you know? They will try to control the media and the press. But at the same breath say that we have freedom of the press. No, you don't, babe. No, you don't. Like, who are you lying to? We can all see your bullshit. Like, right now you're acting a little bit delulu. So I just find it really hypocritical. And seeing 7 security officers pull an old man, a journalist, for just trying to do his job, which is report on the story and ask the right questions and ask the questions people want to hear in the land of the free, in the land of the free press, is insane. Is insane. And I just wanted to say this because I want to know how someone like Antony Blinken sleeps at night. I want to know how someone like Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, who signs billions of dollars to send over to Israel to fund an active genocide, when they see day in and day out the lifeless bodies of children, of women, of innocent men, just finding their family in the rubble. How do you sleep at night knowing that you are supporting something like this? Or smirking? Like, what pisses me off, I forgot the name of the guy. Actually, wait, let me Google it. You've got the guy, his name is Matt Miller, and he's been pissing me off this whole time because I find it so I find it so strange that when questioned about war crimes, when questioned about innocent lives and innocent civilians that we see with our own eyes dying, he smirks and he laughs. And this person is just disgusting. He's so gross. I don't know how people like that sleep at night. And I wonder what's going to happen to them. And I have no words. Guys, I have no words for people who are like this. And I feel like people like Antony Blinken, people like Matt Miller, they will go down in history for people who are on the wrong side. Like, I will never not have their picture in my mind, you know? And I'm not someone who's alone in this. I think millions of people around the world are absolutely horrified. You know, they go down in history alongside Benjamin Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and all the many, Ben Shapiro and all the many people, you know, in the press, in the governments and anything who stood fast and stood by this genocide, justified every single day the money that goes to it and, you know, Israel's right to self-defense. One day, guys, one day we will look back at this time and this moment in history and we'll be like, how the fuck did these people, like, what the fuck is happening? How did this happen? And how did we allow these people to talk so freely like this? To be so proud of their war crimes, you know? So yeah, we live in a really interesting moment in history, but I feel like we're at the tipping point. And then I feel like, okay, I'm going off script and off of my notes. I mean, there's no script, but I have a notes like of things that I'm supposed to say. But I genuinely feel like we're in this moment in history. I think ever since October 7th, ever since the genocide started in Gaza, it has been a tipping point for the world, and the world will never go back to the way it was before. I've noticed in a lot of people, I don't want to say everybody, because many people choose to numb themselves of their surroundings and they don't want to know about the things that are happening around the world. But for many of us, it has opened our eyes to how the world actually works. And we will never be the same again. I can honestly say this, 2024, end of 2023, 2024 has been a really difficult time. it's been a very difficult time to process and to experience. And I sound really selfish in saying this because I'm not even the one who's going through the genocide. But it's just been so difficult to watch helplessly as you see day in and day out innocent people screaming for help. As they're being burnt alive, their homes destroyed, running from place to place, shelter to shelter, only for that to be demolished, burned. And it's been really difficult to process this world. And I feel like I can never look at the world the same way again. It has opened something in my mind that now everything seems to make sense. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are having this sense of awakening, that we start to see that systems are there to make a profit. Like, you hear about that all the time, that the world has been created to benefit the people at the top, but you never really understand. But then you see something like this. You see an act of genocide. But then you see people defending it, even though they're seeing it with their own eyes. And then you start to realize the system's going in, and who's paying who, and who's benefiting, and why would they benefit, and, you know, all of the different things that are playing, the different corporations. And then you hear about, like, you know, they want to ban this app or that app, and then there's someone else who's behind it. Someone else gains to profit from something being taken away from the people. And then you start to realize, oh my God, like, there is a system, and the system does not benefit the people, and everyone is working for themselves. So I feel like we're at the precipice of like there's going to be a massive imbalance, you know? And I felt that last year, and I thought, like, oh my God, there's a mass awakening, but nothing's really happening. But then, like, literally in the last 2 weeks, seeing all of these people starting to realize, oh shit, like, they're going to take TikTok away from us. And when I say us, I mean the US citizens. And then seeing, you know, these Americans defy their governments and essentially give them the middle finger and say, you know what, I'm going to hop on to this communism thing. You know, I'm going to go give China all my data. Actually, what they're doing is much better than what you're doing. This is what you've held us back for so long. Them realizing that there's a bigger world outside, that they're kind of essentially living in a bubble, something like the Truman Show. Not knowing what is happening in the outside world and only believing what's being fed to them. It's just really interesting to seeing the thing with Luigi Mangione and how, you know, him murdering a CEO does not garner sympathy because people are just so sick and so sick and tired of this shit. So sick and tired of the system and the government, not the government, well, partially, yeah, the US government, but the system and the big corporations that are doing whatever they can to profit off of the little man, like off of his pain, try to take everything from the normal person. It's just this like mass awakening and realization that I feel like big changes are coming. I don't know what it is, but there's a feeling in my gut that says that there's more that's going to be happening. You know, again, we're seeing it with the Diddy thing. We're seeing it with so many things that are being uncovered. And I know Cat Williams said 2024 would be the year of revelation. I don't know what he said for 2025, but I feel like that's going to continue. That we're just going to start seeing more. The truth is going to come out because we are at a moment in time in history where I guess the empire is falling, which is the US empire. And the US empire is built off of corporations. It's built off of greed. It's built off of taking from the average citizen. So I feel like that with that empire falling, a lot is going to come out and a lot of people are done. So I wonder, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. I feel like we are already in World War III. So I guess this is something for the history books, but like, I just do feel like a lot of big changes are coming because a lot of people are sick and tired of this shit. So it's a very interesting time that we're living in. And I think all of that happened because of this genocide. I think it's just woken us up to everything. everyone is now more and more aware of how the world around them operates. So it's very interesting to see how everything's going to unfold. And I think that sets it up nicely for the next thing that I wanted to talk about a woman who is very near and dear to my heart. I only say this because I'm a huge fan of her and I went to see her a couple of years ago, Wendy Williams. For those of you who don't know, Wendy Williams is a very famous radio host turned talk show host. She talks about like celebrity gossip, whatever's in the tabloids, all of these things. And she's been a host for many, many years. And me being such a huge fan, I got to see her in 2019 when I went to New York. I signed up to go for the tickets, to be in the audience, to be part of the Wendy Williams show. And she recognized me. She commented on my hairband. It was such a fun experience. I love this woman so much, even though like I know she's a little bit problematic, but like I just love the way that she serves the tea. Like she was ahead of her generation when it comes to reporting on stories, because she gives you a little bit of, like a little bit of her personality, which I think like she would have been perfect for the podcasting era, but she was doing what podcasters are doing like way before on, regular television. And that's why I think a lot of people loved her. And just, I love you, Wendy Williams. But anyways, a couple of years ago, Wendy Williams got really, really sick. And it was like right after the pandemic, and they couldn't go back to live television. I guess she was going in and out of the hospital. She was having health issues. I think maybe she was also having personal issues in her life. Her husband, I think, left her, if I'm not mistaken, or, she left her husband because she knew that he was cheating on her for quite some time. But then he had like a baby with his mistress, and it just became really complicated. And so I guess she was going through her own health complications, and her show got canceled, which I'm really, really sad, because the episode that I was on was like taken down. When they canceled her show, they removed everything from YouTube. I'm like, but that moment in history of me being on her show. I love how I'm thinking about myself. But I mean, having access to Wendy, we no longer have her. She's still alive, but we just don't have her access to her. And it turns out what had happened is that after she got sick, she got pulled into a conservatorship. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe you've heard this word before, actually, let me ask ChatGPT to explain to us in easy layman's terms what a conservatorship is. Okay, so according to ChatGPT, a conservatorship is a legal arrangement in which a court appoints a person or an entity, which is the conservator, to manage the personal, financial, or medical affairs of another individual, aka the conservatee, because they would deem them unable to manage themselves independently due to physical or mental limitations. We've heard of the term conservatorship when it comes to Britney Spears. The court deemed Britney Spears not mentally fit to handle her financial or personal affairs, which is why they appointed, I think, her dad and someone else, like another company, to manage her estate. And the same thing is happening to Wendy Williams. After she got sick, maybe she had like a mental episode. Obviously, because her husband had a baby with another woman, which is normal for people to like maybe have a mental episode. But the court appointed a conservator under the name of Sabrina Morrissey, some random lady, to be in charge of Wendy Williams' $55 million worth, okay? All of her assets, her money, and her mental and medical affairs, okay? Essentially, this woman has full control of her life and has full access to her money and everything that she owns, and is responsible for taking care of Wendy Williams, which is why for the last 3 years, we have not seen or heard from Wendy, okay? Nothing. We saw one documentary that recently came out over the summer, if I'm not mistaken, of Wendy Williams that didn't paint her in the best light. It really made her look cuckoo. Not gonna lie, it was really hard to watch. I only watched a few clips because I didn't want to have this image of Wendy Williams that I love shattered, because I know that she's a strong woman and she's overcome so much. And to see her in that kind of state feels like abuse of someone who is not mentally well or not physically well. It's just abuse. Like, she doesn't seem to have consented to whatever was going on in the documentary. However, this is something that I find really, really interesting and really messed up, that in the United States, someone appointed from the court is allowed to take control over someone else's life. And that person doesn't have to be related to them. Like, I would understand if her son was her conservator, or maybe not her ex-husband, but her mom, her dad, her niece, her nephew, like someone in her family, to be the one appointed to take care of her because they are blood related. But to have some random white woman, by the way, which I found also a little bit weird. I'm not saying this to say that, oh, like all white people are bad. I feel like people just assume that I don't like white people. Like, not at all. But I'm just saying it's just so strange that, and it just rubs me the wrong way that this random woman is taking care of a black woman's finances and all of her affairs and has access to all $55 million of her owner, like whatever she owns. And I find that so weird because I recently, like I watched this movie a while ago and then I recently watched it again. It's called I Really Do Care. Is it called I Really Do Care? Sorry, it's called I Care a Lot. And it's a brilliant movie. It was a thriller, like a psychological thriller, but at the same time, like true crime and all these things. And it was so messed up. It was so messed up because it really shows you how elderly abuse works in the United States and how the United States built a legal framework and a system to allow for these people who are conservators, who their whole job is being conservators for old people, or I guess people who are deemed mentally unwell, to take all of their assets and to take all of their things in the name of, I'm taking care of them. Like, for example, this Sabrina lady, I really care about my client, Wendy Williams, and I really care about protecting all of her money, which is why I have to be the one who controls all of her assets. And instead of letting her live in her own apartment and travel and see her family, no, she has to stay in this facility where she is only, like, she's not allowed to leave the room. And she's not allowed to, talk to people on the outside. And, she can only talk to the nurses and she can't make phone calls and all of these things. It's like essentially putting someone in a prison, 100% a prison, but it's a medical facility or a mental health facility or a hotel or whatever it is. Put them in and lock them up in confinement and then just take access to all of their assets. I find that so weird. And so I really urge you to watch the movie I Care a Lot. Like, it's funny. There's like a huge element of comedy to it, trying to alleviate the seriousness of this topic. But at the same time, it's like a thriller crime kind of situation. And it's really interesting because it does open up your eyes to how conservatorship abuse can really take place and really take advantage of people who are maybe very vulnerable. Especially the elderly, if they don't have, their loved ones or, their kids aren't in contact with them, stuff like that. It can become super easy to manipulate the situation to then deem them unfit to take care of themselves so that you can come and take access to all of their money. Because essentially that money doesn't become yours, but you have ownership of it. So you can just make the decision to sell all their assets in the best interest of them, to, tell them, I'm just going to put them in a medical facility. No, they're not allowed to see their family because their family's abusive. No, their family's not abusive. You just don't want anyone questioning why you have access to all of their assets. Do you know what I mean?
I feel like I'm in prison. I am definitely isolated.
They said you're cognitively impaired and you're incapacitated.
Do I seem that way?
No.
You've been calling me 5 times a day for the last 2 weeks. No, you don't seem that way.
I'm $15. What does that do?
Right. There you have it.
And my money is in prison.
That's right.
I just want to underscore what you were saying, Charlamagne, as well, and that is, this is still a legal situation. So yes, there are things that my aunt just can't talk about. Yeah. There are things that we as a family can't talk about. That's right. But I think that the thing that we can talk about is the fact that my aunt sounds great. Yes. I've seen her in a very limited capacity, but I've seen her. We're talking to her. This does not match an incapacitated person. Not at all. And she, that's why we say she's in like a luxury prison. Yes. Because she's being held and she is being punished. You know what I mean? For whatever reason that other people are coming up with as to why it is she has to be kept in this position.
So Wendy Williams has been in a conservatorship for 3 years. And a couple of days ago, she managed to sneak a phone call with her niece to have a call on a radio show with Charlamagne. And this guy has I think a podcast or a radio show, and she called in with her niece. It was a secret phone call. She even said, I'm going to get in trouble from my conservator. She doesn't say the name. She says that woman, but that woman being Sabrina Morrissey. She's saying, I'm going to get in trouble for this call, but I just want people to know, I just want to see my family. She's like, I'm unable to see my parents who are in their 90s. Like they're you don't know how many years they have left. She's not able to see her son. She's not able to see her family. She's not able to see her mom, her dad, who are living in Miami. She lives in New York. And she's like, I'm stuck in this prison. I want out. And this is very reminiscent for me or for a lot of people of what Britney Spears went through. You know, a lot of people maybe don't know the story, or a lot of people online, if you're chronically online, you might, that Britney Spears has been in a, decades long conservatorship under the control of her father and another woman. I forgot her name. Lou Taylor being her former business manager and the owner, I think, or founder of TriStar Entertainment. So in collaboration with Jamie Spears, which is Britney Spears' father, and Lou Taylor, they came up with this idea of putting Britney Spears in a conservatorship to have access to all of her money. They trapped her in this conservatorship. They have full control of her. They've drugged her for decades. Like, this woman has been put on lithium. If you guys understand how strong lithium is, like when someone's on lithium, they lose all control of their mental capacity. They don't remember things, they slur, they don't have full control of their body, essentially drugging them. She's, put on lithium. She is put in a house where she can't leave. She gets a boyfriend, but this boyfriend is essentially controlled by her dad and TriStar Entertainment. Like, he's just a spy for, to keep her, to keep her, like, to have a companion, but he's not there for her. He's there for the money as well. Allegedly. I'm going to say this allegedly in case someone comes after me. But, like, all of this has happened to try to make sure that everyone around this girl has access to the money and the wealth that she's generated. Because she is still, even though she is not working anymore, she is not releasing any new music. She hasn't released music in such a long time. Even so, they have access to the royalties. Every time you play a Britney Spears song, they make money. Or essentially she makes money, but because they have access to her money, they make money. It's so sad to see that there is a system built and created allowing people to exploit other people to have access to their money. And so it's just really, really sad. And to this, all I want to say is free Britney, free Wendy Williams. Like, let's try to do a movement to get these people out of their conservatorship, because this is conservatorship abuse. And maybe if someone so high profile like Britney Spears and Wendy Williams, if we start to realize that, these people are suffering under the system, then maybe things will change in the US. I like how I say in the US. I'm not even American, but I really care about these people, and I'm really sad. And I'm really sad for Wendy Williams, because with all of the Diddy situation that's happening, we need her. Like, we need her. I want Wendy Williams back so she can break down all these things about Diddy, because she has said previously, many years ago, she's talked about the Diddy situation. She's tiptoed around it. I think she even once said something when she was on the radio show and she got fired because Diddy made a call. He said, like, it's either, you guys get my music and all this stuff, or you have to fire her. And the radio station fired Wendy because she said something negative about those Diddy parties. She knows. Wendy Williams knows everything, and we need to free Wendy so we can know all of the shit about P. Diddy. Like, we need her now the most. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about the story because it's a story that's really dear to my heart. I really love Wendy Williams, and I really hope we can free Wendy. The next story that I just want to tiptoe around because, I've spoken about it in previous episodes and there's updates to this, which is the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively case. As you guys know, this is going to be a case and a story that's just going to keep unfolding. We're going to have more stories, more updates, more case and lawsuits coming out, more information. But Justin Baldoni has just sued Blake Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, and their publicist for $400 million, which is insane. But I guess that's the damages that are accrued for his production and, for his personal reputation, because he's not the only one who's being sued and he's not the only one who is being accused. It's him, his publicist, his production house, his partner in Wayfarer Studios and all these things. So like many people, I think there are like a total of 12 people who were sued by Blake Lively first and attacked by Blake Lively first. So they're all banding together to sue both the New York Times, Blake Lively, and Ryan Reynolds. And from Justin Baldoni's case and his lawsuit that he filed, like he submitted like I think 170 pages, which I haven't gone through all of them yet. That's why I don't want to talk about it so deeply. Like I think I'm going to dedicate another episode to it. But in it, he said that Taylor Swift also agreed on the changes in the script that Blake Lively made, which I found so interesting because I said it. I called it in my last episode. When I did the episode about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, I said something smells like Taylor Swift here. This is some like the similar type of Taylor Swift tactics. And I feel like she is somehow involved because, you know, she's best friends with Blake Lively and birds of a feather flock together. And at the same time, she had her song in the movie and all these things. And I'm like, there's just something that smells fishy. And I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift because she's always given me mean girl energy. She's always given me kind of like crocodile tears. I like her music. I'm not saying she's a terrible musician. I think her music is really, really great. But I feel like there's something fishy about her, something unsettling. And I never really liked her. Like I liked her in the You Belong With Me days, you know? And I liked her when she, you know, I think it was the Red album, 22. Ooh. Like I like her music. I'm not saying I don't. But I feel like Taylor Swift and maybe Blake Lively weaponized their victimhood a little too much, you know, a little too much in their favor. They know how to make themselves very innocent. And I'm the one who's always victimized. And I'm the one who's always, you know, like I don't buy it. I feel like it's played up a lot. Like even, and I know I'm going off a tangent, but I feel like this is a very interesting point. I recently watched this documentary. It's a 2-part documentary series about Taylor Swift and Scooter Braun. And it goes on about how, like, you know, the beef between Taylor and Scooter. And I know Scooter is Zionist, hate him, scumbag, all of these things. But at the same time, I never really fully understood the beef between Taylor and Scooter because we always just heard that Scooter's a bad man because Taylor told us that he's a bad man. But I never understood why. I understood that he bought the rights to her music, that she was unable to buy her rights to her music, and he bought the rights to her music so he can make a profit off of her songs and all these things. I'm like, well, that's unfair. She wrote her songs. But then when you watch this documentary, you understand that it's not really his fault. Like, he didn't go and Target and say, I want Taylor Swift songs and I want to buy it. He bought the company that owned Taylor Swift songs and a lot of other artists' songs. So it wasn't just Taylor Swift. It's not like he's targeting Taylor. He just bought the company because they were going bankrupt. Like they were selling their company and they're selling all of the assets to their company. And Taylor made an offer. They were like, this is not a good enough offer for what we own. Like, come back with a better number. She didn't have a good number to give at the time that they were selling this. So they sold everything to Scooter Braun. He bought the company, thus buying the assets, buying the rights to her music. And she got really pissed off and she felt really offended. And in my head, I'm like, I know that sucks, but that's just business. But at the same time, you re-recorded and re-released your music and you got what you want, but Scooter's still getting all these death threats and stuff like that. So I just found that like maybe she changed the narrative a lot to make herself look more like the victim when I don't think it was like Scooter Braun actively trying to go and spite Taylor. He just bought a company that also owned all of her assets. And to me, I feel like there's something fishy. It just made her look so much better. You know, everyone was on her side because she's the girl and she's the victim. And, you know, like he's a bad man for not letting her own her stuff. And it's just like, yeah, but you didn't have the money to offer it at the time. The studio, the company said no. So like, I don't know. It's just, for me, I feel really unsettled when it comes to Taylor Swift. Like, I feel like we're being manipulated and sometimes a lot of stories are being inflated to build an active community to surround the victim that is Taylor, if that makes sense. And I feel like the same tactics that she has are being used here with Blake Lively. And I do feel like birds of a feather flock together. And I feel like, you know, there's a little bit of weaponization here. just from the outsider, my opinion, I feel like there's more to the stories. And there's more to what we're being told, but I think that Justin Baldoni is here to fight and show all of the receipts. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all unfolds. I feel like this is going to be bigger, way bigger than, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation, because so many people are involved. Like even Disney's getting pulled into this, Sony's being pulled into this, and it's just, a lot is happening, and we're going to find out so much about what happened. So yeah, let's just stay posted. And I just wanted to give you that update because we've talked a lot about this case specifically. Now, the next story I wanted to talk about ever so briefly, again, this is just a follow-up to what we were talking about in the last episode, which is Dubai Bling. If you guys know, or you follow Dubai Bling, you would know that Kris Fade and Brianna Fade were active characters or cast members of Dubai Bling in season 1 and 2, and they were notably missing in season 3. I think they just had like a 5-minute cameo. So a lot of people were asking, why did Kris Fade and Brianna Fade choose to step away from Dubai Bling? And so this week they released a video. I'll show you the video in a bit.
Hey, it's Kris and Brianna Fade.
Hey, guys.
And I guess we're on here to talk about Dubai Bling Season 3. We received thousands of messages asking, where's the Fade family? Where are you guys? We don't see you. And, we made a small appearance in episode 1. But I guess we sort of felt like we know where most reality shows, where they sort of end up going. And we just thought for season 3, it was probably best for our family, for our choice to sort of sit this one out.
Now, I think the reason why Kris Fade and Brianna pulled away, and I think they said, we know how reality TV goes, especially as it goes on. And they say that it has to get more dramatic. They said it without saying it. Reality TV shows get more dramatic. And that means you need to have more dramatic storylines. And I feel like Kris Fade is sick and tired of the drama. Now, if you guys are not Dubai based, then you wouldn't know who Kris Fade is other than him being on Dubai Bling. But I grew up listening to Kris Fade. I remember the first day that he was on Virgin Radio. I remember listening to him on, getting ready for school in the morning. And he's talking about how he just came from Australia and all these things. Kris Fade has built this persona as being a family man. Everyone loves him. He has such a positive vibe. And even everyone that I know that interacts with him, I've personally never interacted face-to-face with Kris Fade, just on the phone. I'd call in when I was in university, when I was in school. I'd call into the radio, when they do those competitions and stuff. And again, they were really, really nice. Kris Fade was nice. His team was really nice. But also people that I know who've worked with him on a professional level and on a personal level has said amazing things about Kris. He's a straight up good guy, very nice, very friendly, very professional, and all of these things. And so he's built a very positive image for himself. I think the persona or the character that they gave him on the show, because remember, if you listen to my last episode, you know that I said that the people who go on reality TV shows, this is not their actual personalities. They are given an archetype. They are given a character to play. Even though it's themselves, they're playing themselves, they're playing an exaggerated version or a fictional version of themselves, right? They'll be like, you have to play the villain. In this situation, you have to be the bad guy. And then we'll figure out a way just so that they can build drama for the show. They can build a storyline. And I feel like they gave Kris a very negative villain character arc that didn't look good for his personal image that he has spent, I think, 15 years trying to build, especially in the UAE and his brand deals and, him being on Virgin Radio and all these things. Kris Fade is a stand-up guy. He's a really nice guy. But the character that we saw him play on Dubai Bling was really negative. I even was really put off. I'm like, I really don't like this. I don't like him, all of these things. But then when I talk to my friends in the real world, they're like, we've worked with him. He's not like this. He's actually amazing. He's such a nice guy. So I'm like, So this is the archetype. This is the character he has to play. And probably saw in season 1 and 2 that it's really affecting his personal brand that he's taken such a long time to build, that the smartest decision for him is to step away. Which is why when I say, listen to the wording where he says, as we know with reality shows, especially at this time, with every season it gets more dramatic, he's probably alluding to the fact that he didn't want to be part of the drama anymore. He didn't want to be a villain anymore. He didn't want to play this role anymore, which is why him and his wife decided to step back. Which I think is a really smart move because they don't need Dubai Bling. maybe that helped them catapult a little bit into the global stratosphere. But if you guys are not living in the UAE, if you're not living in Dubai, this guy, mashallah, is so successful. Like, he built a brand and a career from nothing, you know, from coming from Australia to be a radio jockey. We have so many radio jockeys, but none as successful as the brand that Kris Fade is. You know, he built a fitness brand around it, a food brand, all these things. Like, whenever there's an event happening in Dubai, whenever, you know, like major events and openings and all these things, Kris Fade is there. You know, this guy has built his wealth, has built his brand, has built everything off of being this nice guy, which I know he is. So I feel like him being on Dubai Bling jeopardized that, which is why he decided to take a step back. So I just wanted to say that. I find it really, really interesting. And I want to help you guys increase your media literacy just a little bit. And to be like, for you to be able to recognize that, you know, not everything that we see online or not everything that we see in the TV shows is real. You know, sometimes things are calculated or sometimes things are not as they seem. So with a show like Dubai Bling, not everything is as it seems. And the Kris Fade, Brianna Fade situation of them stepping back is a very clear indication that not everything is real. A lot of things are scripted, and, you know, they had to make that calculated decision to step back because it's affecting the personal brand that they've built, you know? So I just find that really, really interesting. With that being said, we're going to have to end this episode because I think we talked a lot. I think we went through a lot of topics that, you know, you need to like let marinate in your mind. And once you've let it marinate, please let me know what you think, because I love hearing your takes. I love hearing your opinions. I love having this back and forth. You know, I've said a lot of things from my personal view, but I want to hear from you as well, because like this is a community and we're a society. And as a society, we have dialogue, right? So I'd love to hear from you and your thoughts. But yeah, we covered so much this episode. So, you know, let me know if you're on the app. Are you on the Red Note app? Have you made the move? What do you think? Oh, and if you live in the UAE, did you go to the Coldplay concert? And was it 95% full, or was it 100%? Or was it 80%? I need to know from the people on the ground. How was your experience going to the Coldplay concert, getting the tickets, and then at the concert? Was it full? Like, what was it like? Was it worth it? Was it an experience of a lifetime? I'd love to hear from you. And so, yeah. That's all that we have for today. Thank you so much for listening to Scroll Society, a members-only club for those who are chronically online. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!